If there is any healthy relationship between China and Taiwan, it should be condensed into two sentences. The world will change because of China, and China can evolve because of Taiwan. At the political level, Taipei and Beijing are currently fighting. However, if the time scale is extended to 20, 30, or even 50 years, at the civilized level, Taiwan is actually the stem cell of the future civilization of China, regardless of bilateral political relations. If Beijing is smart, it should look at Taiwan right now, and if Taipei is smart, it should look at China at this time. What is China look at Taiwan? Beijing's current Chinese dream is called the Great Rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, and I have repeatedly pointed out that this is a wrong, at least a narrow interpretation. Because the concept of rejuvenation is to return to a certain history, the essence is backward-looking. Where will the revival go back to? The Spring and Autumn period and the Warring States period and the Pre-Qing period. It was a wartime of division. The Han and Tang's unification flourishing age. It was an era when the northern and northwestern Hu people's thoughts and technologies were imported into China. Revival to the Mongolian Yuan era. It was a part of the Mongol Empire. Or revival to the Great Ming Dynasty. That is an era full of Dongcheng, Xicheng, eunuchs, and the Jin Yi Wei. Again, revival to the era of the Qing Dynasty. The Qing was a loose empire in which the Manchus, Mongolians and Tibetans sat on equal terms while the Han people were second-class citizens. Therefore, the Great Rejuvenation of the Chinese nation is a false proposition in the wrong direction. If we want to give today's China an expectation, the correct and scientific statement should be the Great Evolution of Chinese civilization. Because evolution is a forward-looking concept, and anchoring in the concept of civilization is far more advanced than anchoring in the concept of nation. Under the concept of the evolution of civilization, China is bound to go through a difficult process from centralization to rule of law, from control to openness, and from monism to pluralism. May I ask if there are any other countries in the world other than Taiwan that can provide positive and negative experiences that suit China's national conditions? So, Taiwan is the stem cell of the evolution of Chinese civilization. Anyone who cannot see this cannot be called a man of insight. Then, what does Taiwan look at China? This is a twofold meaning. First of all, Taiwan is 200 kilometers away from China, a geographic fact of the past, today and for the next millennium. Whatever you like it or not, Taiwan has to deal with China. In this must situation, Taiwan is no different from South Korea, Vietnam, Myanmar, Thailand, Malaysia, or even Japan. The People's Republic of China is bordered by more than 30 countries within a distance of 200 kilometers from East, West, North, South, and Central Asia. None of these countries can ignore this fact and, denying oneself, deal with China. It would be a joke if Taiwan thought it could survive on denying deal with China. This reason is so simple, therefore, Taiwan must look at China. It includes adapting to China's economic and social physiology, and understanding the psychological state of Chinese political rulers. The second meaning of look at China is that Taiwan must understand the truth that the Chinese Communist Party is not equal to China. This truth is too simple for Taiwanese. One example will solve it. 30 years ago, most Taiwanese thought that the Kuomintang is equal to Taiwan. However, look at this sentence today. Is it a joke? Taipei and Beijing's bilateral ruling parties, each with their own difficulties, and choose to do not see each other, so it is impossible to expect the ruling party to do so. In the words of Mr. Xi Jinping of Beijing, Taipei and Beijing regard the health of their bilateral relations as none of them are men. China is currently nailed down to its ambition that the world will change because of China. But it is unaware that the concept of Great Renaissance makes the world think that China will make the world worse rather than better. On the other side of Taiwan, however, it is totally unaware of the strategic commanding heights of great significance to the planet that China can evolve because of Taiwan. In this sense, both Taiwan and China have to say sorry to the world. Just as anything in life, to be healthy, you have to stand higher and see farther. We are looking forward to people of insight from China and Taiwan, who will take the elevator from the first floor to the 15th floor, and pull the time scale from 3 years to 30 years. Let the world will be better because of China, and China will evolve because of Taiwan. China, Changhua, Chinese, Huashaya, and so on, the vague boundary of the concept, resulting in a large paste jar. Think about how many discussions and arguments get bogged down in this big paste jar, winding around and eventually ending in emotions. In this paste jar, the raw materials of blood, culture, custom, and identity are integrated. If coupled with motherland, Chinese descendants, old ancestors, and so on, the mix of spices, any thinking on the use of these words will become impossible. Over the years, I've been looking for a word that can be clearly defined to replace the paste jar, to make the discussion more clear. The word user of Chinese characters may be the knife that cuts the paste. First of all, the definition. Chinese character users are today also through the Chinese character. Kanji is the main text communication tool crowd. I'm one of them, because I'm writing this article in Chinese, and you're one of them, because you're reading this article. The so-called Malaysian Chinese, if he writes and reads in Chinese characters, then he is also a member of the same, extended to Indonesia, Singapore, and other Southeast Asian regions. The Americas, Europe, and even Central and South America, Africa. People often said that the Chinese culture influence circle, such as Korea, Japan. Although there are still individual Chinese characters over there, but the majority of its citizens have not relied on Chinese characters as the main communication tool. So Korea, Japan is not in the definition of Chinese characters users within the scope. In addition, the Chinese character system hangs countless languages, spoken language, such as Northeast dialect, Shanghai dialect, Wenzhou dialect, Fuzhou dialect, Cantonese, Hong Kong dialect, Xiamen dialect, Taiwan dialect. Some of these languages are interoperable, some are almost as chicken talks with duck. Try to get a Fuzhou speaker and a Wenzhou speaker to communicate in language, and you will find it more painful than having someone communicate in Italian and French. Among the languages that hang on the Chinese character system, there is a kind called Mandarin, which serves as the largest common denominator of communication among people of different languages. Chinese characters are used all over the world. It can be divided into two parts. Its largest population of about 1.4 billion people living in today's People's Republic of China of the mainland. Hereinafter referred to as the Group A, the second part of the total of about 50 to 60 million people living outside the People's Republic of China, hereinafter referred to as Group B. What can the above boring analysis be used to do? It can do a lot of things, believe it or not. Let's play the following game. May I ask if a person born in Beijing, 24 years old with the People's Republic of China passport, to go to the United States to study, and then obtain American citizens, married and have children, and 30 years old, is he a Chinese? Does he need to be responsible for the great rejuvenation of China? Similarly, a person born in Taipei who later became a British citizen and settled in Britain, is he a Taiwanese? Does he need to be responsible for the future of Taiwan? This simple two problems, in the aforementioned paste jar, can make people blush or even fight. One more question. A 3 generation ago immigrated from Fujian to Malaysia, or Indonesia, and so on. The person who still knows how to write and read in Chinese characters, does he belong to the Chinese? Should he be regarded as an overseas Chinese? Does the PRC have any responsibility for him? A Chinese red second generation, the official second generation, 14 years old, was sent to Australia, become an Australian citizen. His father was still an official in Beijing. Is the child Chinese or Chinese Australian? is his rights and obligations as a human being governed by the People's Republic of China or by the Australian government? When he interacts with the Chinese embassy in Australia, is he patriotic or treason? A person who has lived in the jurisdiction of the People's Republic of China from Taiwan for 30 years and voluntarily obtained a passport and identity card of the PRC, and then has work in the local government. Is there anything wrong? On the contrary, a person who emigrates from the jurisdiction of the PRC to Taiwan and obtains the identity card of the ROC, is it inappropriate? If you want to unlock the mood of the paste jar, clearly recognize, who am I? Where do I come from? Where am I going? These three major life issues, please begin to use carefully. And even refuse to use the pile of paste words, China, Chinese, Changhua, Chinese nation, motherland, descendants of the Yellow Emperor, old ancestors and so on. And begin to use the Chinese character user this knife. If we want to talk about the relationship between Group A and Group B mentioned above, the only concept that can make the problem clear is Chinese character user. The situation of English users is much more complicated than that of Chinese characters users. But the problem of identity surrounding the Anglo-Saxon tradition is almost non-existent. Although the so-called spoken English in the world are also many totally different accents. They are all English speakers. We have never heard of New Zealand college students resisting Shakespeare, or American citizens feeling inferior and uncomfortable in front of British citizens. Taiwanese society is obviously a user of Chinese characters, just like eating in Taiwan with chopsticks. Recognize this. It will be helpful to jump out the emotional paste jar.